Sloan gang, welcome back to my channel if you've already been here. If not, hello! It's absolutely fantastic to have you here. Please stay, and by that I mean subscribe. Also like this video, but that's absolutely useless to say because you haven't seen it yet. So the title of this video might be a bit odd for some people. Let me explain. Here in Germany the thrift stores have been closed since before Christmas. Along with every other store that isn't a drugstore
or a liquor store or somewhere that sells food, or yeah, that's basically it. Apothecaries.
That too. Pharmacies. And while I absolutely understand that this lockdown is necessary, it kind of goes on my nerves. The thing is, I have this, I call it chaotic karmic being a huge thriftaholic, and it has to go somewhere. It's just this scavenger, treasure hunting instinct that I have to, you know, satisfy. So when I can't thrift, my treasure hunting senses get very sensitive in a way, and I try to calm them by taking things I find on the curb. Okay, I mean, I take things from the curb even when the thrift stores are open, but they are not at the moment. And so that is the only way I can get used things without relying on the internet, and that doesn't really satisfy the treasure hunting thing, because it's just not random enough. And before I moved to Hanover, I lived in Marburg, and I absolutely found everything on the street there. It was fantastic. So the whole share economy, leaving boxes outside culture isn't as prevalent in my part of town, but I've been weirdly lucky lately. I've been lucky before, which means that a few things in this flat are actually from the streets. For example, this mirror. All the boards for kitchen, the corner shelf thing. This chair. I do have the other armrest somewhere. And a workbench. This armchair. Although that one is her fault. That's my great-grandmother, and the whole scavenging thing kind of runs in the family. Also, I found that frame on the street. Anywho. Lately I've been fairly lucky. I guess that is that karmic thrifting energy that has to go somewhere. I really do like the videos of Moriah Elizabeth, who regularly paints things. And you might not be able to tell from my usual style, but I absolutely love her editing, I love her visual style, and she's the one YouTuber I fall asleep best to. And I thought, hey, why not also paint on things? So yes, this is definitely inspired by Moriah Elizabeth. Thank you for so many hours of wonderfully weird editing. I love you a lot. You will never see this, but I love you a lot. There will eventually be an upholstering video about that one chair in my room. But at first, let's hold that stuff. So we start with the last thing I found, which is this vase. I kind of like the color. I probably wouldn't ever use it for flowers because as much as I like mint greenish teal, pastel teal things, I don't think they go well with the greenery of most flowers. Maybe dried ones. The thing is, it has a few chips here and here and here, and I guess that is why it ended up out there. I'm not quite sure what to do with that yet. Probably paint it partially. So that's a plan. Not going to do all of them, just showing you what the options are here. This thing is a mediocre, shabby chic, romantic catch-all, I guess. And I thought I might just use my new sheet metal scissors that I'm really excited about because new toys. Tools. The word is tools. Actually, that wasn't on purpose. And snip this lace off and then see what I can do with that. That's not really painting though, that would be soldering, which is also a new toy tool, whatever. One thing that I definitely want to paint is this. It's a spice rack. I'm not gonna use it as a spice rack because I already have one. This is perfect for my cabinet of curiosities because it's a bit like, you know, one of those. So it needs a sanding and a painting. So I'm gonna do that. And then some minor modifications. I also found this, which is a hanging sign saying, man nehme ein gutes Glas Wein und schütte es in den Koch. But I kind of like the whole business sign thing. So I have a few options what to do with this. So I might actually paint this. Not sure if in this video or in the next that I do about painting things I found outside. I don't know, it could be a thing. But yeah, there are several options, and it might actually take a bit longer. And the chain is making rattling noises when I move it, so that is, I'm sorry. And the thing I am actually most excited about, weirdly, is this. It's a small little slate saying Herzlich willkommen bei Anna liebt Tee. And on the back it says, wir bedienen Sie gerne an unserer Theke. We'll gladly serve you at the counter. Cool. They also gave me the translation right away. I'm not sure if that was in someone's kitchen or because I didn't find it near any sort of cafes, but in front of a normal house. Actually, this is real slate. I first thought it would be, I don't know, painted wood or something, but it's decent stone, which is cool because I also have an engraving tool and I kind of want to use it on that. But the thing I mainly want to do is scrub that off, because I'm not Anna. I do love tea, but I'm not Anna. And then paint something Art Nouveau-ish here. I think that could be really cool, and maybe then put it in the background in some of my videos and just put messages on there, because I kind of like these freeze frame bonus type things. So I'm definitely doing this, and the rest we'll just see in a minute or two. So we are starting with this vase. I used a very soft pencil to draw on there. For painting I used some porcelain paints I still had around, and I was surprised that they still work so well after almost 10 years. I also have no idea whatsoever why I have brown porcelain paint in the first place, but that was fortunate in the end, because the gold was a bit too bright for my taste, so I dulled it down with a bit of brown and black, which worked perfectly for what I had in mind. The initial idea was some kind of Klimtian Art Nouveau inspired thing. I knew that I wanted some sort of text on the neck of the vase, and I decided to go for all mirth, no matter, from Much Ado About Nothing. Beatrice is my favorite Shakespearean character, no surprise there, and I just really like this quote, and I also really like the word mirth. It's just a really nice word. I had a lot of fun figuring out how to do these very tall, slightly warped letters, and I think it gives off a decent Art Nouveau and almost Jugendstil feel. You might not have noticed, but we do have a theme here. My big issue, though, was the bottom part. At first I tried painting masks on there, because in Much Ado About Nothing there's a masked ball, and I thought, cool, hey, that's a theme right there. But that absolutely didn't work because of the ridges. It looked absolutely horrible. I do not have footage of that because I did run out of either battery or storage space, and I'm not even sorry about that. Then I tried stripes, and after firing the paint so I wouldn't scrape it off all the time by accident, I tried taping them off and paint them over for cleaner, neat edge. And as always when I tape off things, it didn't work out at all and made just everything worse. And so I went and painted the whole thing gold, but that wasn't right either. And I was really getting frustrated at that point, scraping and painting and scraping off again. But then my partner suggested hydro dipping. He didn't call it hydro dipping because he didn't know the term back then, but he described what he meant, and so I ended up marbling this thing. I tried that once before and it didn't work out at all, so I was pleasantly surprised that it did this time. I used a gold nail polish for the first layer and some of the black porcelain paint over it, because for some reason the black nail polish wouldn't work.
And I also noticed that the golden nail polish stuck very, very well to the already fired paint. I couldn't even scrape it off when I tried, and so I decided to just utilize that and go over some of the rectangles I'd already painted and parts of the text to just draw everything a bit together. And I think that actually worked pretty well. I'm not perfectly pleased with the result, and to me it's important to also show off mistakes that I make, because I think it's good to see that other people also screw up in their crafts. It's so easy to look like you got it under control, but honestly I don't really. A friend of mine actually already suggested some other things I could do with this vase, and maybe at some point I will, except if one of my friends claims this thing. I did have fun with the marbling though, so I'll probably try that again, and of course with the text. And in the end, I am a bit surprised that I hate it less than I thought I would while I was working on it, because, wow, I was really, really frustrated with this. But hey, it wasn't so bad in the end. So for this slate, I already had an idea when I was walking home after I found it. Fun fact, the chalk pencil I am using for the design here is a remnant from my primary school days, and that is because we actually had a slate on our shopping list for first grade. It wasn't a slate, but a plastic thing, but it was a slate nevertheless, and I've always been an old-fashioned weirdo, so I really did like that. I asked around with my friends, and it doesn't seem to be a universal experience, but I actually think it's not the worst thing to have for kids who are just learning to write, and it also saves a fuck ton of paper. I decided to do 2 designs, one on each side, to basically represent 2 facets of my personality, style-wise. Sometimes our aesthetic needs differ from day to day, and I don't like neglecting that. I went for a kitschy side and basically a swamp hack side. The latter was very much inspired by this illustration from Deutscher Balladenborn, the wellspring of German ballads. The tool I'm using is an engraving pen I bought at the drugstore of all places. It only cost me €10 and it actually works very well for that price. It does have the advantage of being very lightweight and that it runs on batteries, so I don't have to bother with cords or anything like that. On the other side, I went with bindweed. I really do like bindweed, it's super pretty, it's considered a weed, and it has such nice interesting folk names as Creeping Jenny and Possession Vine. Honestly, if I ever were to found an all-female Southern Gothic band, I would definitely name them the Creeping Jennies. It's a fantastic band name and I'm calling dibs. I am very sorry that you see my head here all of the time. I still have not figured out an angle to avoid that. I should probably also not get that close to my work, because that's not really healthy for my back nor for my eyes. But hey, I don't think that will ever change, so the angle it is. By the way, I did wear a mask while working on this because, again, if you work with something that produces particles so small that you can easily breathe them in, that's probably a good idea. Also, wear one outside, we're still in the middle of a fucking pandemic and I really, really want to go back to the thrift store. At some point, the included batteries of my engraving pen got weaker, so I brought out the big guns instead of just, changing the batteries, because that would be easy. I've had this engraving tool for a while, but I rarely use it as it's pretty heavy and makes my hand feel weird for hours after working with it. It's handy to have though, especially in combination with a new toy. When I work with that one, I also wear protective goggles because honestly I don't want that slate dust in my cornea. I still use the small engraving pen for the details and the combination works pretty well. Before I went on to actual paint, I decided to seal the wood with an oil glaze, another thing that hasn't been used up in the last decade. This prevents the paint from seeping into the grain and gives the wood a nice warm sheen too. I scribbled on my bindweed design freehand, mostly eyeballing it so it's not perfectly symmetrical. I really like the meandering intertwined vine designs of the Art Nouveau movement and tried my best to incorporate as much of that as I could without going down a research rabbit hole. I rarely work with acrylics, so I have little to no idea what I'm doing here, but I figured out that if I wanted the colors to pop, I had to block out the design in white first. I used very cheap acrylic paint in general, but 2 coats were enough anyway. The bindweed itself is a bit more pink than it would be in nature, but this is art after all, so I don't really care. I did have a lot of fun mixing the paints, and that's something I really only came to appreciate after watching several hours of Moriah Elizabeth's videos. I mainly work with watercolors, where I do enjoy mixing colors too, but with the instant vibrancy of acrylics, it's a completely different thing. I am pretty proud of how and what I did there, so just like with the writing in the project before, you get to see the whole time-lapse. I'm not even sorry. I did have a bit of a hard time figuring out the right kind of green so it would stand out against the wood but still match my slightly pastel-y idea of the design. I really wasn't too pleased with how the whole greenery looked when it was done, especially with the details, but once I went in and did some of those shiny dots, basically light reflexes, I was far happier with the results. Actually, this combination of pink and green and golden yellow in the middle of the blossom is one of my favorite color combinations ever. It's just so pretty. I then went in with gold paint because 1, I just really love this gold paint. It is the best I've ever found in a brick and mortar store, and 2, it gave me an excuse to paint more swirly lines, to be honest. So this side of the sign is more classical French Art Nouveau, and now we go onto the very German Jugendstil part. Again, I drew my inspiration from this illustration in my book. This time I sketched with a chalk pencil, which is so much more visible, and I should have thought of that with a bindweed. Never mind. I then went in with a mixture of dark brown, black and purple to make it more of a swamp hack aesthetic, because I wanted to basically have 2 of my main style influences covered. I added a bit more swoosh compared to the original. The original is absolutely beautiful, but I had to adjust for the shape of that stand. Could have done that for hours. It's just really fun drawing these lines. Other fun fact, in Belgium, by people who didn't like Art Nouveau, it was sometimes called noodle style or eel style, and I really like that. I also went in again with some gold paint. This was actually a decision that I was doubting a lot, even while I was painting, and I wasn't completely pleased, but in the end I think it worked out, especially with the dots. And we're done! No wait, that looks awful, let's try again. So I'm pretty pleased with the outcome of this one. I did have a lot of fun with the acrylics. I'm definitely working with them again, or more. I'm actually not quite sure which side I like better. The kitschy side is really cute and I really like how the blossom turned out, but the swamp hack side is obviously very much more historically inspired, or at least more directly historically inspired. Anywho, I hope you enjoyed this video because there will be a part 2. I already started painting the little shelf. I just couldn't for the life of me squish that into this video as it was too long to begin with. But I am doing that, and there's still that sign and the thing I want to make a crown of. So I hope you'll come back for that. Thank you so much for watching. Have a wonderful time until we meet again. Be kind to yourself, be kind to others. I'd love to see you again. Please stay. And by that I mean subscribe. And maybe also like this. And farewell.